here. We are going to discuss a large number of games last night, some interesting events. Have to shoot down a few things because, boy, people are just going crazy over certain things, and we'll talk about that stuff. But start with the pre-show. Russ, go ahead.
Yeah, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. So, they have Baker Mayfield, who's the first overall pick a couple of years ago. We have teams in that took quarterbacks in that draft. The Bills took Josh Allen. The Jets took Sam Darnold. But Mayfield got all the press because he was the first overall, and last year he went on a nice 7-game run to end the season. This year, they pick up more players. There's a lot more media hype. I won't say fan hype because I think the fans have been pretty even keel about it, knowing that they had so many losing seasons that they weren't going to, think that they were going to be the best team in football in a year.
Sure.
But now they're 2-3. And I saw something where Mayfield has thrown like 27 interceptions in his last 18 games or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's something insane like that. And he threw 3 last game. And so now we're looking at a situation where, okay, even if it is a new coach and even if there are some new coaches and players in certain areas of the team, now you have to question the quarterback a little and say, okay, they brought in Odell Beckham. They have Chubb, who's one of the best running backs in football. These are usually – and they have a pretty good line. It's not the best line, but it's better than it used to be. What's wrong with this team? Now, Freddie Kitchens deadpanned it and basically said, well, there's 11 games left. And that's great. But you got to be worried about your quarterback a little and probably tell him to shut his mouth now.
I can't recall what former head coach he reminds me of, but there's been a couple sort of Southern twits that have been head coaches that they just talk out of each side of their mouth, and
Barry Switzer.
Yeah, but at least Barry Switzer had a resume winning national championships at Oklahoma. You can't say that for Freddie Kitchens, who I don't think he's been a head coach anywhere. He was made a head coach after being an assistant coach, but. I mean, and somebody in the chat said, well, they were getting sick and tired of the hype for the Browns. It was the hype was out of hand during the summer. Right. And the thing is, if anybody, I think it was Colin Cowherd who analyzed this. If you looked at Mayfield's record against like sub 500 teams or teams that were bad, like say Cincinnati in their own division, his stats against those teams were fantastic. Yeah. Any team that he played against that had a good defense or that had a winning record, he was terrible against, or much less good than he was against those bad teams. That's sort of been borne out. The only team that he has played well against so far this season was Baltimore, and they might be a paper tiger because they've had a couple games where I think they should have won and didn't. But the whole point is, he may be a good quarterback. He may not have enough weapons around him, but they added a lot of weapons, and the team is just as flawed as they were last year. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's gonna come a time in the next couple months maybe that people are going to start saying, well, Baker Mayfield may not be all he's cracked up to be.
Yeah, I mean, we saw articles like I'm pulling them up over the summer. 5 reasons the Browns can win the Super Bowl this year. Even ESPN puts up, Browns embrace big expectations, goals to win the Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, that's always the goal, right? But but everybody was talking about it and writing about it except for a select few. And now this is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, get to the playoffs first.
It's not even get to the playoffs. You know what? Just survive middle of October, late November football. Because a lot of times the seasons are decided at that time of the year. You get 3-4 weeks into it, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, now you have an idea of what you are.
Yeah.
Now you have to get to business. So like I said, Baker Mayfield needs to shut up.
Yeah.
And just play his game. And if his game's not good enough, it's going to show itself pretty quick.
And he's a lightning rod for controversy. I mean, I'll just be brief about this, then we'll get started.
And that's why, by the way, I didn't want the Jets to draft him. Imagine in New York, the microscope he would be under right now, starting from the end of last year with all the wins to now where he can't win. or he's not doing well. Let's put it that way. He's won 2 games, but
yeah, this whole Richard Sherman thing that happened
Mhm.
On Sunday night, supposedly Richard Sherman mouthed off after the game saying that Mayfield didn't shake his hand before the coin flip. There's video of Baker Mayfield shaking his hand. Now, Sherman came out afterward and said, well, it wasn't a hearty handshake, or it wasn't that. It was a sort of a half whatever handshake. I'm like, okay, you just lied. You said he didn't shake your hand, and now there's video evidence that he did. So he's attracting this, he's attracting that kind of response. He's attracting Nick Bosa planting the flag because of what he did at Oklahoma in Ohio State. I mean, all this distraction can't be good for the Browns.
No, it's not. I also want to say this is a couple days removed. I just saw this, but it's worthy of repeating. We're going to say happy birthday to Olivia de Havilland, who's 103. She was in Gone with the Wind, and I know that because I've watched it.
She was
great actress. 103. Wow.
She was the sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
To Vivian Lee. Okay, one brief thing about baseball, and then we'll get started. You question, and this happens in every sport, you question the decisions made and whether they come back to bite you, changing a goaltender in a playoffs, changing lines, whatever. Houston up 2-1, game 4, wanting to end the series, goes with Justin Verlander on 3 days rest, and he gets lit.
Mm-hmm.
And that could really come back to bite the Astros. Now they have to pitch Garrett Cole on regular rest in game 5. If they lose, they're out, obviously. Even if they win, and I know that you were saying that this is not that bad.
I mean, luckily Garrett Cole isn't it.
Yeah, but we're talking about now, if they win game 5 tomorrow, then you have Zach Greinke, who's one of the highest paid pitchers in the league, but has shown in the past that he can't handle pressure in big situations, and he got bombed in game 3. He would be the guy pitching in game 1 against the Yankees. So, I mean, it's funny how the sort of domino effect occurs with these teams. Not only the Astros. I think that Washington would have advanced over the Dodgers had they bolstered their bullpen at the deadline and not having to rely on guys like Patrick Corbin, who's one of their better starters, coming in relief in game 3. I mean, I just don't get these managers who think that they can depend on 3 or 4 pitchers. You need more than 3 or 4 pitchers to win.
You do. What I would take out of this is in the old days, and I mean like 70s and 80s, you could start a guy in 3 days rest and you would get a reasonably good start. You can't do it anymore. We've seen it with guys like DeGrom or whatever. They're so used to their schedule. Now, you could throw them an inning in a game on the days that they're supposed to throw in the bullpen, the bullpen session, and that works out. But you can't throw them a game, push them up. It doesn't work. They should never do it. Managers should never do it. I still don't think it will kill the Astros because those 3 pitchers are still pretty amazing. But it definitely changes things. Can't lie to that.
Yeah, this isn't the 1926 World Series where Grover Cleveland Alexander pitches in Game 6 and then comes in I think it was a bases loaded situation in Game 7. It's like it just doesn't work that way anymore. Anyway, let's get started. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, October 9th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, we had a bunch of games last night. I'm counting them. 8. We had 8 games last night. And we'll start with the undefeated Carolina Hurricanes, who win 6-3 over the Florida Panthers. James Reimer plays against his former team, makes 47 stops. Let's start with that. I've been a harsh critic of James Reimer, going back to his days in Toronto. And the reason being is that James Reimer will have games like this where he looks like a Superman. He'll play great. And then the next game, he will be a frickin' sieve. And that's, where what I would say is the big concern for Carolina. If they get this kind of goaltending out of him 85% of the time, then they can't complain. They're getting their money's worth. Yes. And it's a good 1A, 1B compliment to Peter Mrazek. I just don't think – I think this is fool's gold. I don't think this is real.
Yeah, I look at it like this. You gave up 47 shots. That's not good.
50. They got 50 shots in game.
Yeah. You gave up. That's too many shots. Like how many? Again, this is why I'm worried about their goaltending too, because it's like how many of these performances can you count on? They're getting them in a row, which is good. The other day, as an example, and I didn't even realize this. Oh wait, no. Sorry, this is an older game. But I'm looking to see how many shots Carolina gives up on a regular basis now, because this isn't something you don't want to be a regular occurrence for them. And look, they've won 1, 2, 3 games either via overtime or a shootout. Eventually, that's going to come back too. So right now, they're on the plus side of the ledger, and that's fine. And
right now you have to say they're getting much better offense than anybody expected early on in the season. I mean, look at the game last night. Hayden Fleury with 2 assists. He's not an offensive defenseman, but right place, right time. Jordan Stahl, a goal and an assist. Ryan Dzingel, 2 goals. Dougie Hamilton, Sebastian Aho with goals. Svechnikov with 2 assists. He's got 6 on the season, and they played 3 games. So I think Svechnikov is a great young player. So if if he takes a step from last year, that's expected.
But here's the interesting thing, Mike. And so I haven't been looking at this. So in the game against Tampa that they won in overtime, they only gave up 13 shots. But Mrazek gave up 3 goals. So his save percentage was a .769. So this is what I'm talking about. Like right now, they're coming out on the plus side of these games, and so everything looks great. But odds are you can't keep playing like this. Reimer had 32 of 34 the other night. So right now, Reimer's come out of the gate hot, and for some reason, on certain nights, they're giving up a ton of shots. And right now, their goaltending, Reimer has been really good. Mrazek hasn't. Like, that's the reality.
Right.
And so, like, that's where, what if all of a sudden they have to go to James Reimer as their everyday goalie, and then Mrazek is the lesser played? Now, Mrazek gave up 3 goals the other day, 36 shots, 33 saves. So that's more of the norm for them, is they're going to give up 30-something shots a game right now. And right now you got Reimer playing out of his head, and Mrazek, who on the season's got an .878 save percentage, which is about what we think he is.
I just have to answer this in the chat.
Oh, this is where you have to be careful about the hot takes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. True. And I'm not drawing. I can't draw conclusions after a week. I really can't. And anybody who does, I think, is moronic, because really, it's a thumbnail sketch. You're talking about 1/20th of the season. I just have to respond to this, though. I think Alexander in New South Wales in the chat is just trying to goad me, because he says Mike is a Sabres fan at heart. If you knew me, if you knew knew my reputation, you would never confuse me with a Sabres fan.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm a harsh critic of that organization. I have not liked them in the past. I'm not a Sabres fan. But I try to be impartial when I'm a reporter.
Yeah.
So I put my my emotional feelings aside. Okay, flip it to the other side of this equation in this game. Sergei Bobrovsky gives up 4 goals on 14 shots and gets pulled. Some of them, I think, were just symptoms of really bad defense. Boy, does Joel Quenneville have some work in front of him.
Well, that's why, if you remember, I said when they hired Quenneville, I think there's a chance, if they do the right things, that maybe they could be a playoff team. And when I saw nothing change on the blue line, I bailed. And this is the exact reason I bailed, because Eck and I know Bobrovsky a fair amount, and he's got to have a decent defense in front of him. Right. He's not one of these guys that can just make save after save after save with no defense and survive a season. That's not his makeup. He has always done well with good defenses in front of him. Then he does look great, but he is not Dominik Hasek, and so where he doesn't need a defense. So that's where I look at it and I say, they don't strike me as a playoff team. I'm sure at some point Quenneville's system will kick in a bit and Bob will play better. There's no question in my mind. And I don't know, how many goals did Montembeau give up last night? Do you know?
I think 2.
2. And that's not terrible. I mean, he's just getting used to the NHL. But end of the day, Bob's going to have to play 65 games, like we said, and he's going to have to be near perfect in all of them for them to make the playoffs. That's the bottom line. It's all on him right now. Mm-hmm. Probably doesn't matter the rest of what the team does because it's all going to fall on him.
But he can't do it by himself. He needs that defense to be at least.
No, but he's going to have to come up with that big save, right? He's going to have some shutouts. And that's what I mean.
Now, this game got a ton of attention because of a great individual performance. But again, I have to caution people. One game does not a season make, and one game of success does not mean that the trade that the team made was a great trade.
Yep.
The Islanders lose to the Edmonton Oilers 5-2, and 4 of the 5 goals were scored by James Neal. Now, do I think James Neal is done? No. That's why that trade. That's why I call that trade a crap for a crap deal, because Neal was not working in Calgary. It was not working at all. Lucic was not working in Edmonton at all. They figure, let's hope that they go to the different places and they have some success. Lucic at this point, the only success that he's had is, laying the body in a couple games and, being intimidated like he normally is. Neal scores 4 goals. Now, Russ, I honestly, I don't doubt that. Neal has now 6 on the season. Great. Do I think he's scoring like he used to? No, because he is not a mobile player anymore. Now, maybe he can be like Matt Molson to John Tavares back in the days with the Islanders, and he can stand in front of the net like a fire hydrant, and the guy gets him the puck and he scores. But I just don't, this is not – I caution everybody to say that all of a sudden this means that James Neal is back and he's going to be this great player.
Yeah, I don't think it's sustainable. I think, yes, right now it's clicking early. He came in good shape. He's a guy that hasn't, if you average out his games over the last 6-7 years, he's probably averaging 60, 62 games. So there's that. There's the fact that he does, get injured like I'm talking about and goes cold. And so right now he's hotter than hot. Let's see what happens in a month, and then we'll start talking about it. I thought I had him for like 10, 15 goals. I'm not sure he's still getting more than that just because he started out with 6. You never know with this game. I mean, how many different times in different sports do you see guys come out of the gate like this and then, go through doldrums? So, yeah, right now it's working with McDavid. Hey, if it works out, this is great for Edmonton. But again, 3-0 Edmonton Oilers, I'm still not fully on board. The positive for the Islanders side is Noah Dobson played in his first game, got his first point, played 18 minutes. I think now he'll be in the lineup all the time. That's a plus for them. The bottom line is, though, and this is something where even Lou Lamoriello talked about it, said he wasn't worried about it. But again, all that does is put tremendous pressure on the goaltending, which I don't think is there, and Trotz, and that's basically he only cares about goal differential. Well, right now he's 1-2 with a -1. And so they are going to struggle to score goals. They need to get them from other places. I don't like the Varlamov contract. I never have. He will have hot moments. There's no question. But I just don't think he's the same goalie he was 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, and I'm still concerned about the potential for injury because he gets injured every year. So Now, if I would have been asked, if this was a game of the decimated by injury teams. One, the Pittsburgh Penguins, who lost Malkin, who lost Bukestad against the Winnipeg Jets. This is
somebody else. Oh, Hornquist went out last night.
Hornquist went out during the game. I don't think it was before.
Yes, during the game.
Against the Jets, who basically had, let's just say, a young prospect / AHL defense. Sami Niku, Tucker Pullman, Heinola. Nobody who started in their top 6 last year. And yet the Jets win 4-1 over the Penguins. And I think you have to say, and not based on one game, because I don't draw conclusions after one game, but Pittsburgh might be in trouble, Russ.
Yeah, they might be. I mean, this is another one where, and again, Rutherford can only do so much. But right now, they could start to drown. Like, there's no question about it with everything that's going on there. So Matt Murray's going to feel the pressure. Even Crosby will feel the pressure. So they have to win some games some way, somehow. And, right now they're 1-2, but their 1-2 looks a lot worse than the Islanders 1-2.
Right.
Than a lot of other teams, because you don't know when these guys are coming back. So this is going to be hard for them. Yeah, they're going to go through, right now, next game for them is Anaheim. We'll talk about Anaheim in a minute because, that's an interesting story too.
And 3 of the 4 goals for the Jets were scored by defenseman Heinola. Yeah, Heinola with his first career goal, Tucker Pullman, and your favorite Neil Pionk. Now
he's going to score goals like he will, but it's the rest.
Yeah, so that's good news for the Jets to get off the schneid. I'm just checking to see what the stats were for Matt Murray. He gave up a really bad goal.
He did.
He didn't. Only 18 saves on 22 shots. That's not bad in terms of shot suppression, but you got to make saves. Now, one thing about the Penguins, and I heard, I think it was Pierre LeBrun talk about this, they have a stockpile of defensemen. They have more defensemen than they actually need. I think they have 8 or 9 on their roster right now.
Yeah.
And there is some speculation that a guy like Gabranson or a guy like, probably Gabranson would be the leading guy, that they could move him out for a forward to help them with their situation with Malkin and Bukestad up. And based on what we've seen in terms of trades happening early in the year, that might, if there's a fit out there, and Winnipeg might be the fit because their defense is so decimated by injury, that a deal could go down.
Yeah, could. We'll see. They're lucky Heinola is working out so well. I just looked back to see where I had him ranked, and I had him ranked 21st, and he was picked 20th. Mm-hmm. This is my ranking, so it's different. It's not exactly a mock draft. It's not at all. So he could exceed expectations, but it's early. We'll see. But right now, they're lucky they're getting this play out of him, because imagine if he wasn't there. I'm sure Morrissey will be back in the next game or so.
Right. And
I don't know if the trade's happening. I still don't think it's happening.
And Kulikov too.
Again, they've lost a lot, but this league is so upside down that you would swear that they couldn't win a game, and there they come out and they win that game. And so you just never know. It's early in the season. Look for aberrations. That's what I always say.
Now, Anaheim is still undefeated, and they beat Detroit for their first loss 3-1. Raquel, Ritchie, and Silverberg all scoring for Anaheim. Again, this is a little bit of a surprise. I picked Anaheim to finish at the bottom of the Pacific Division. And you made the point earlier, if John Gibson is playing like John Gibson and he doesn't get hurt, then that's going to keep them within striking distance. And he had 31 saves last night.
Yeah, there's no question. He is a big key to it, and so are those young players. It was going to be hard to pick them as a playoff team, but I remember saying the caveat that, if they get this goaltending and some of the guys do kick in, that they could hang around for sure. And I think they're going to for a while, because I think Gibson's a top 5 to 7 goalie in this league. So right now, looking pretty good. I see Lundestrom played. I see
Steele played, I think, probably, right? Unless he's hurt.
No, Steele did not play.
Then he's hurt.
But Ritchie is giving them, and he's been around a couple of years. Troy Terry's in there. So, if some of these guys do kick in, that's a pretty big deal. Michael Del Zotto, we don't talk about him. He played 19 minutes. Michael Del Zotto could still play in this league because he could skate and hit. He may not be the best defenseman, but his defense has gotten better over the years, and he's a workout fiend. So I give Del Zotto some credit here. He's a Stanley Cup champion. Yes, he is. He may not have played, but he still gets a ring.
Yeah, he got a ring. He did get a ring. Now we'll save the comments on the coach regarding this team for later. But the Dallas Stars get off the schneid with a 4-3 overtime victory over the Washington Capitals on a Tyler Seguin goal in overtime. Russ's team is too good to be. Every team gets, even good teams get off the slow starts. So I wasn't concerned about it, because I picked Dallas to be in the top 3 in the Central, and they finally get, against a good Washington team, they get a win.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked that they won. I told you I didn't think Montgomery was going to be in any kind of trouble, and we'll get into more of that later. Definitely a good win for them. Again, they have a pretty good defense on this team, and it's getting better every day. Klingberg played 26 minutes. Heiskanen played 23. Sekera, whether if he could stay in there, we'll see, because he always gets hurt, played 23. Lindell played 22. If that sticks around and Ben Bishop plays really like the way we know Ben Bishop can play and they get any kind of scoring, they're a playoff team. Like, they have all the makings of it. So, yeah, I wasn't all that worried.
Game that I watched a little bit in between innings of the Rays-Astros game was the Nashville Predators and San Jose Sharks. And I have to say, the Sharks did not look good. It was a 5-2 loss for the Sharks. Nashville, let's see here. Goals, Yossi with 2, Kyle Turris, Phil Forsberg, and Dante Fabro with his first of the season, Burns and Kane with the goals for San Jose. Now, again, I'm not going to harp on this, but Martin Jones, 24 shots, 20 saves. I mean, they need better out of Martin Jones. If they don't get it, I don't know if this team can make the playoffs.
Yeah, like I said, I'm losing faith in him, but I did watch the way that game was, and they were in it for a while.
Sure.
And actually, Rene was playing out of his mind. Like, they were getting some great scoring chances, and like any other team, I think they got discouraged, and then that's when they don't play good enough defense, and Nashville starts getting a few goals, and then they're sort of out of it. But they were in it for a while, so I think, will the addition now of Patrick Marleau be an instant success for them?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I don't know what kind of conditioning he's going to need. I know he worked out with him during the summer, but again, is he going to walk right into the NHL? I doubt it. Or he's going to have to skate with them for at least probably a week or more. We'll see how all that works out, because he is 40, right? I mean, so at 40, you don't know what the time off will do and how long it'll take for him to get back. But end of the day, I'm not overly concerned about the Sharks except for Martin Jones.
Yeah, now Marleau agreed to a 1-year league minimum $700,000 deal. There has been no indication yet of whether they plan to send him for conditioning down to the AHL, or he's just going to step right into the lineup. I mean, Russ is right. It depends on what kind of shape he kept himself in. He's always been a physical freak. He's always kept himself in top physical shape. But again, it's a situation where you didn't play any of the exhibition schedule. You didn't play training camp. You missed the first few games. And now you're just going to step in. He's a veteran guy and he can do it, but I don't know if you're going to get a ton out of him if he does do that. So, I mean, we'll see. But, all right, the most entertaining game, at least the byplay between two players, was the LA Kings and Calgary Flames. Yep. It was the Matthew Tkachuk versus Drew Doughty battle, a battle which it is not, doesn't appear to be for show. They don't like each other.
No, they don't.
And, it was a one-upsmanship there. Tkachuk scores 2 goals, including the tying goal with a little over a minute left in regulation. And then Doughty scores in overtime on the power play for the winner. And immediately after scoring the goal, goes to the Calgary, the boards where Calgary fans were located, pounds on the glass and utters a couple of 3 words about, let's just say three colorful words, and then holds up his ear to the Calgary fan. I mean, I'll quote Bob McKenzie, what he said about this morning. Shoot this kind of stuff into my veins, because the league right now is so sanitized that having some genuine hate and some dislike and some emotional play is welcomed.
Yeah. I think that I saw the post game. I saw some of the game. I saw the game-winning shot. Look, how could you not like Drew Doughty? I am such a Drew Doughty guy. Even when it doesn't look like his team is that good, he is making the most out of it. And that's why this guy is a star. That's why this guy will always just be looked at as one of the best and eventually be a Hall of Famer. Like, that's Drew Doughty. So I look at this and I say, Tkachuk could learn something from this. He really can.
If he just has an average rest of his career, he's a Hall of Famer. But
Oh yeah,
he's won a gold medal and 2 Stanley Cups.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
not even a question.
not even a question. Actually, 2 gold medals. Wasn't he on the 2010 team as like a 19-year-old? So yeah, 2 gold medals and 2 Stanley Cups.
And let's give the Kings some credit here too. Maybe the steal of the draft is Tobias Bjornfot, because when I was asked who's going to play in the league this year, I certainly didn't mention Tobias Bjornfot, but I also didn't have a ton on him. I had just seen him a little bit internationally. This guy's been great. Now he's playing with Doughty. I don't know if he played with him last night, but I know he had been paired with him.
Right.
That's a hell of a shot in the arm for the Kings. Is it enough? Probably not. But I think for a Kings fan, this was great. This gives you a little juice. This shows you that don't call them dead yet. Even if they're rebuilding for this year, there's still guys there.
Yeah. The last game was the Bruins and the Vegas Golden Knights. Bruins win 4-3. Let's see here. Pasternak, Marchand, and Krug. Shocking. It's always those guys.
This is the difference, though, between calling Vegas like a Stanley Cup team or a Stanley Cup winner and then playing someone who is that team. They're going to come up short against those teams. They don't have the blue line to pull it off. They don't. That's the problem with Vegas.
And there was a little bit of news after the game. I haven't seen an update this morning, but Rask apparently had some sort of pulled muscle or cramping at the end of the game.
It looked like a dehydration thing, they said, I believe.
Yeah, and I think he's had that before, so it's not.
Corey Schneider's had that too. This is starting to go around a little bit with goalies. Like this is, all of a sudden, and it does seem to be more than just hydration, right? Teams know about hydration. They all have slushy machines. They all do all of this, but I don't know. I'm kind of thinking goalies are working harder than they used to work. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, and they had the water bottle on the back of the net, and it would be like every once in a while they'd go to it.
Right.
Now it's every break.
Right.
It's every break, and I've seen like in TV timeouts them throwing the bottle to the bench to get another bottle to come back, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Are they wearing more equipment or equipment that makes
they're working harder?
Yeah, it might be, and then again, that is a sign of, well, you can't play these number one guys all these games. You have to lighten up their workload. You can't play them 60, 65 games because when it gets to the playoffs, they're going to be spent.
So speaking of working hard, here's who's on the blue line for Marc-Andre Fleury. Braden McNabb, Derek Englund, who was supposed to retire 2 years ago, Nick Hague, John Merrill, Nick Holden, and Shea Theodore, because, right now we know they have some injuries. But Nick Holden played 23 minutes.
No. Can't happen.
And by the way, do we hear any injury updates from Vegas? I've heard nothing.
Week to week for Schmidt. That's the last thing I heard.
But how bad do they miss him? Immensely, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Schmidt was a number 7 defenseman for the Capitals.
I know.
3 years ago.
But he's everything for this team.
He's their number 1 or number 2. And do you think that they're reconsidering what they did with trading Colin Miller to Buffalo for a second-round pick?
Yeah, I do.
It was done because philosophically Gallant did not like the type of game that Miller played. Miller played an offensive game the year that they went to the Cup final. They wanted him to play more two-way. He couldn't because that's not his game, and they decided, okay, we're going to trade him and get a draft pick. Well, I think you could use that veteran defenseman right now.
Yeah, this is where Gallant's got to back off because he's a very polarizing, or he seems to be a very polarizing personality, right? That's what I've always taken out of him. And he's, a fairly intense guy. You do need Colin Miller right now. I mean, based on what I've just told you is their blue line without Nate Schmidt, they're hurting, man. And so it all falls on Marc-Andre Fleury at this point and the offense.
All right, now
I do have breaking news too. We didn't get to talk about it on this show yesterday.
Yep.
So debuting tonight, along with the Flyers' real home game, not the game from Prague, which was a home game, but not a real home game, and Wayne Simmons in a Devils uniform. Debuting for the Flyers tonight is a Rage Room. And for $35, you can go in and break shit. And so,
What?
yes, I'm going to read you the.
Oh my God!
I'm going to read you what this is. Okay, so the concept is definitely one of a kind and non-traditional. We ran the concept by business operations, yada yada yada. The Rage Room style space allows fans and guests a stress-relieving outlet amid all of the game action. Through scheduled sessions that could be reserved in advance, participants wearing protective gear can smash, break, and unleash their rage on everyday items. I got to take this off because now they got running video. So yes, you go in there. You have to reserve your spot, and then you can go in and break shit.
Okay. The only positive here is if you put Gritty in that room and give me a baseball bat, I will have rage over that piece of crap.
But that'll cost you like $3,000, Mike, because that's Gritty's rate.
You know what? And thanks for letting me come in late, guys. The whole thing here is, I see they never mentioned it was going to cost any money. It should be $5 to go in and $30 to video it, because the social media aspect of this is hilarious. Wait till Hart coughs up a bad one, or like people.
$5 to get in and $35 to get out.
Yeah. And because it's a Philly sports fan, like there'll be two guys who just decide this is going to evolve into a boxing ring, right? And guys will just, security will haul them down and throw them in there saying, fight it out yourselves, guys.
$50 to play Gonna Fly now.
I mean, are they going to have like Michael Layton bobbleheads in there? Because since he just retired, fans are still mad at him for 2010. Even though he helped get them to the Stanley Cup, they still think he lost it for him, which I don't. Will you be able to break a few Michael Layton bobbleheads? Like, I just
oh my goodness! Only Philly could come up with this stuff. Come on, Peter. Just because we went through the games, we talked about the Jets game. I just wanted to touch on that with you. The result had to be surprising, and the fact that their decimated defense scored 3 of their 4 goals.
It was bizarre. And I think when you boil that game down, I'm going to have a blog coming out on this. I just got out of a meeting and I want to get this up, but you look at the underlying numbers there, that game actually boiled down to Connor Hellebuck versus Matt Murray, and Connor Hellebuck took Matt Murray to the woodshed. And there are probably 3 goals Matt Murray wants back. And there's probably 3 goals the Penguins wish Connor Hellebuck didn't go full Superman on. And that's the difference, because the Penguins outchanced them. The Jets only had 2 shots in the third period. They had 3 shot attempts in the third period, and the Penguins had 26. Wow. They went full Penguin on them, right? Like, yeah. And Hellebuck rose. Look, great news that the defense stepped in and played, but what's Neil Pionk doing standing basically in the crease? You got to ask that question too. I don't know if you guys saw this. Ville Heinola is the first player from the 2019 draft to score this season.
Yeah, so I brought that up because I brought up Bjornfot too, because I didn't count on those guys playing this year. I don't think the Jets did either, by the way. I really don't think the Jets counted on Heinola playing this year.
He was not in the plan.
No, but he's played great, so I give him a lot of credit. It's interesting because even though I was saying, Peter, I do rankings, I had him ranked 21st. He got picked 20th. A lot of times that stuff lines up, and I think the Jets got a good one. There's no question. We'll see what this does to his long-term career, though.
Yeah, the problem is there's Heinola. It's celebrations in the streets in Winnipeg right now about this guy, and that's the problem here. In that people you got to temper your expectations, because you can't just take the loss of Trouba Myers and Sherratt and then the absence of Bufflin and put that weight on his shoulders because he's had a good 4 games.
Right.
He's still a project. The surprise. I think what we have to go back, because you knew about Heinola much more than I did at the draft, and one of the things that we have to remember here is the Jets never planned for him to be playing right now. There's no way. He's just showing that maybe he had a bit of a jump since last spring to now to be at this level. That's a good thing, but it doesn't mean that hockey curve development is going to continue to happen. It's going to plane out at the point. let's just be happy he's here, but let's not put the weight of the world on his shoulders. It's a nice surprise.
Yeah, and Tucker Poolman will have 15 goals this year. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, that'll keep going too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Russ, I know that you pointed this out yesterday. It came on basically right near the end of our show. I saw a couple people tweet it out. I thought it was a good discussion point to talk about. And that was a list of the odds for coaches to be fired in the NHL. And we'll start off. There's a list of like 10 coaches here. So we'll talk about a few of them here.
Okay.
In terms of whether you think these odds are right or they're way off base. Now, the first one was the aforementioned Jim Montgomery, the head coach of the Dallas Stars, who made it to the second round of the playoffs last year, and they very easily could have beaten the eventual Cup champion Blues. It went to double overtime. They have him at 4-1 to be fired. I don't see that even being close because I think he's well regarded, and I think even if they took a step back, I don't think he's going to get his head chopped.
0% chance. If you bet on that, you're a dope.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like it would be like 20-1, not 50-1.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, these odds makers. Here's what we have to understand about sports gambling.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of hot takery in sports gambling. So the fact that they were 0-4, they were looking at, what if he goes like 1-7? Would they react? Dallas is never quick to react about anything anyhow. But again, the guys setting the odds are not hockey fans. That's what this clearly shows me. But it's fun to go through the list.
Right.
Yeah.
And the next one, Peter, was Peter DeBoer, who I believe they're 0-4 now too. So if they base these odds on the start of the season, that's really short-sighted because, it's not very often you have the Denny Savard situation in Chicago where Joel Quenneville comes in after 3 or 4 games. That's
or
very
Laviolette. Laviolette was the same thing.
Yeah, Laviolette, right, but it's very rare. It doesn't happen all the time. They have Peter DeBoer at 5-1. I didn't think the Sharks looked good yesterday, Peter, but I don't think they're coming close to firing the guy that got them the Cup final a couple of years ago.
No, and I think they're going to trade for a goalie before they fire the coach.
Absolutely,
that's not DeBoer's fault.
No,
that goaltending tandem is not DeBoer's fault, and Wilson's got to understand that, and I think he probably does. I think San Jose is going to sort some things out. I think they'll right the ship, but it's going to require DeBoer to take a good hard look at his defensive structure with both forwards and defense and say, we're allowing things to happen here that sort of expands on the fact that our goaltending isn't very good, and he's got to figure out what he's going to do to adjust that. They're going to have to figure out where Jones's issues are, and then start trying to clam it up in front to prevent more of those chances from happening. If that makes sense.
No, it does. And what I'm concerned, or not concerned with, what I'm questioning is, where do they go for that goaltender? I mean, the guy that I would think, and somebody said in the chat, would be Craig Anderson, because it would be a 1-year situation where they could trade for a veteran guy like Anderson to now. The thing is, I think Jones, and I have to look up how many years he has left in his contract, but I don't think it's a ton much. I don't think it's 4 or 5 years. I think it's shorter term than that.
It's ugly.
No. He signed an extension. He's got 4 more years at 5.75. You're never going to be able to trade that to a team like Ottawa because unless Martin Jones can turn it around. So you're stuck with that contract. They may have to stick with him just simply because they can't unload him.
That's exactly it, right? Like, they had an off season to deal with this, and they didn't. And that should have been their number one goal, was to deal with that. Craig Anderson makes a lot of sense, but
because LA will never trade quick to San Jose.
No.
And I mean, if Jones poops the bed again this year and it doesn't get done, I mean, he's a buyout candidate at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about.
They won't do that. They'll use him as a backup, and they'll get rid of Dell.
Yeah,
well, right. What do we have? What do we have this summer?
in terms of free agent goaltenders.
So don't we have an expansion draft this summer?
Well, yeah. Well, not this summer. Next summer.
Next summer.
Yeah.
Next summer. So
he'll be exposed. He could be exposed. Yeah, sure.
But that's 2 seasons away, right? This season and next. Do they have that much time?
They're getting older. Some of the guys.
This is a fix now problem, and
well, the window isn't closing, but you would have to say that with the signing of Carlson to an 8-year deal at 11.5, they don't have much flexibility, and they have guys hanging around. Now they bring Marlowe back. They have Thornton there who are 40 plus. They're there for 1 year, and if Jones proves that he can't carry them in terms of giving them dependable goaltending, which he didn't last year. He did at times in the playoffs. But if he's slumping again this year, Aaron Dell's not going to carry the ball. Then they're going to have to, and they're going to have to go out and find a goaltender. And short of, like I said, Quick's got term on his deal, but I don't think they'll trade inside their own division. You got Anderson, you've got Holtby, but I don't think Washington's trading Holtby if they're serious contenders for the Cup. Somebody in the chat is saying Corey Schneider. He's a big question mark right now after the last couple of years. Georgiev, I don't see the Rangers giving him away.
They won't give him away. He might be available via trade, but, they might have to bring up Josef Koronar. He's 21 from the Czech Republic. He played through the playoffs last year with them. At some point, they may get desperate and give him a look.
Yeah. The thing I wonder, too, is you talking about the Jets, they're 2-2. We don't really know what this team is yet because they're a hot mess. But if they all of a sudden started heading towards the bottom and weren't near the playoffs, and you were a team like San Jose that had aspirations, maybe a guy like Laurent Brossoit becomes an interest to you because he'd be an RFA. He's only making $1.2 million. You could fit him in the cap, and you might have the option of keeping him around next year or more at a reasonable rate. Because he seems to be someone who will get another pay raise or a shot someplace else after this season, I bet. Because if he continues his sort of play, he's going to have value to someone, and you can't put more. They're already spending $7-point-something million on goaltending in Winnipeg. How do they keep doing more? How do they keep spending more on that with the same 2 guys? They can't.
Well, and the other possibility, and this would be later on in the season, and once it's determined if they're in the race or not in the race, would be the two-headed monster in Chicago, where you have Leonard making $5 million and Crawford making $6 million. If Crawford stays healthy, I heard Elliot Friedman talk about this last week. He said basically there's a contract in the drawer of Stan Bowman for one of the 2 goaltenders. That means if it's Leonard and they sign him to an extension, then Crawford is a rental. They're not going to keep both of them. If they can get assets for the other one, the one that they didn't sign, then that would make sense. Now, if Chicago's out of it, then I don't think they mind helping San Jose as long as San Jose gives them a good return for the goaltender. But that might be a possibility as well. Now they have Rick Tocchet at 6-1. I don't buy this for one simple reason. The expectations in Arizona are low, and Rick Tocchet did a great job last year keeping a team that was decimated by injuries. Schmaltz, Dvorak, Chychrun. They're both their goaltenders. I mean, everybody got hurt there, and they still stuck in the race until the last week. So I don't think there's a chance he gets fired, even if they have a bad year.
No, he's safe through the year. I mean, and now with the goaltending, being what it is again, Tocchet's safe. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Now, this one, if the odds on Tocchet are 6-1 on this list, I would say they're closer to 15 to 20 to 1. I think it's a long shot. Bruce Boudreau is 7-1. And this is why I buy this. I don't think Minnesota is good, Peter. I think they're okay. But in a division like the Central, okay means you're finishing in second last or last. Even if Dubnyk plays really well, I think the max they get is probably 85 to 90 points. And you could have a division like a few years ago where the Central, where everybody in the division had 90 points. And so the team isn't bad, but it's not good enough to make the playoffs. And Boudreau has survived 3 different general managers there. So at a certain point, now you have Bill Guerin as the GM. He's probably going to want to hire his own coach. And if they finish in last in the Central, even if they have a decent year, that'll be his opportunity to fire Boudreaux. So I think 7-1 is sort of close to being right on.
I think that's close. Yeah, I think that's fair. It could happen.
Peter?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what the Wild are, and I don't even know if Boudreaux knows either. They're just, yeah. But there's a few teams like that. What are the Panthers right now? They're great coach.
No blue line.
What?
No blue line.
No blue line.
And we talked about it earlier, but I'll mention it again because you've heard Eck and I say this. Bobrovsky has to have a semblance of a defense in front of him. If he doesn't, he's not a great goalie like he looks like he is. He needs that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that.
No, he doesn't. And Florida, in theory, should have a decent defense. They
have a couple decent defensemen. I mean, Ekblad is good. Matheson is highly paid. I don't know how good he is.
He's always been overrated in my book.
Yeah, and they signed Anton Strawman, who a lot of people in Tampa Bay thought was over the hill. So
exactly.
For 3 years at $5.5 million. So
and Yandel's capable, but again, he's 33. Same with Strawman.
Yeah, but Yandel is an offenseman.
Right.
That's the thing. He is not a defenseman. He doesn't play in his own zone. His defense is his offensive ability, putting the other team on their heels, and that only goes so far. Every once in a while, you actually have to knock somebody off the puck or play positionally sound. And Keith Yandel has never done that. So
that's true.
Now, okay, here's one. They have John Hines from New Jersey and Paul Maurice at 9-1. Russ, do you think if New Jersey has a bad year that Hines is in trouble?
Oh, yeah. I think he could be in trouble mid-season.
Okay.
I do. Peter, I think the expectations are high there.
Peter, I'll put the Maurice in your court. Go ahead.
Higher than
I said at the end of last season that Maurice would not finish this season.
Okay.
I think the fact that the roster, the Bufflin thing, the injuries and everything is going to buy him a ton of time.
Okay.
And if he can find his way to coach around this and keep this team hovering in the 7-8 area, or the 7 to 10 area without not being too far out if they're on the outside looking in, he's done a decent job, and that'll buy him time.
Okay, I'll do it this way. There's 3 names here at 10-1 odds. Which one do you think is the most likely of the 3 to be fired? John Tortorella, Mike Babcock, or Travis Green? I'll go first. I was going to say Travis Green.
Yeah.
Because I think expectations are there from the Aquilinis and Benning. They go out and they make the signings of Furland and Myers. They Quinn Hughes added to the equation. Pettersson, possible MVP, Besser on a new deal, all these things. And if they improve slightly, only slightly, or if they stay on par with what they did last year, they're looking for a scapegoat.
Yeah, no question. I think you're right about that.
I think Green's on. I think Green is slowly losing. He's slowly losing the players.
Yeah,
and I think he's lost the hardcore fans, the ones that can influence and make a mess of things for a team. He lost them last season, and it's just continuing on. And you've got a major divide in Vancouver right now. You've got guys, they've got a hashtag for it called the Benning Bros. Mm-hmm. And the people who support Benning, and then you have the others. And again, for a team that's probably going to be as lousy as the Canucks, man, are they entertaining for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, it's a shame. They have some players, but every team has some good players. They need more of a team.
Well, they're a team of players that don't make any sense. Like there's no formula to what's on the ice at any given time. And I think you could maybe put one of the upper echelon coaches in there, like a Boudreaux, a Quenneville, take a Sutter or a Trotz, and you could you could get better results, but I don't know if they're sustainable.
Now, I don't think Tortorella.
Here's how you know a coach is in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. Now, Mike Smith got credit for this, but in that game against Edmonton, they had 3 too many men on the ice penalties. That falls right behind the bench, man.
Wow. I don't think I've ever
further than coaching for that.
I don't think I've ever seen 3 in one game from one team. My goodness. Yeah. Just on the other 2.
3 in 2 games. Sorry. It's 3 in 2 games.
Oh, okay.
But still,
even if the Leafs lost 15 games in a row, Babcock is not being fired. I don't think Babcock is being fired in season.
If they lost 15 in a row, he'd be fired, Mike.
I don't think so.
Oh, I know so. There's no way they would put up with that. No way.
The Heat would be intense, but I don't think they would fire him. I think
Peter, come on, you're Canadian here. You got to pipe up on this one.
Sorry, say that again, please.
I just said, hold on. I want to rephrase this for Mike. Mike said, I think if they lost 15 in a row, Babcock would be safe. I said, Mike, if they lose 15,
I didn't say he'd be safe. I think he's surviving the season. I said the Heat would be intense, but I don't think but they wouldn't fire him because first of all, if they lose 15 in a row, it's got to be something like Matthews being hurt or Tavares being hurt. They'd be extending
or Anderson being gone.
Or Anderson being hurt, right.
Look, they're not going to lose 15 in a row, but if they put together a 15 game streak where they're like 3-10-2,
right?
There's going to be some questions. Here's where it kind of lies with a coach like Babcock. If you believe the legend of Mike Babcock is such that he is this incredible coach, then as the GM who is part of the team that hired him, then, or one of the groups that was there, you now assume the role of responsible for him.
Right.
You're believing he probably has the talent to coach himself out of roster limitations. That's what you're asking. So if we make a front heavy, top heavy roster, maybe his defense isn't as good as it could be. We believe you can coach around that issue because you demanded a $50 million contract. That comes with expectations. You want the pay, you want the security. You also build up your own legend. You've got to deliver on it. And if Babcock, and if the argument is, well, I can only do so much with hot garbage on my back end, then that's a different conversation than what's
and they don't have hot garbage on their back end. It's not defensively.
Right, let's be fair here.
It's better than it was last year. Go ahead.
And Mike has talked about this. Let's be fair. So in 2008, he won it all. In 2009, he lost in the Stanley Cup Finals. Then he lost in round two, lost in round 1, round 2, round 1, out of playoffs, round 1. Doesn't matter who you are. At some point, you are going to get looked at and say, you're not what you used to be, man. And this is a year where Mike Babcock has to prove otherwise. Otherwise, he is in trouble.
Right. And I mean, these odds are based on who gets fired first.
Yeah.
My assertion with Babcock has been he's getting the season. If they miss the playoffs or if they lose in the first round, he's gone. If they advance, I think he gets another year. But don't mistake it. Sheldon Keefe is the coach in waiting. Right. Everybody knows it. It's the worst kept secret in the world. It's just a question of when.
Well, and my basic answer to that is they wouldn't hesitate in blowing up the Marlies if they have to save the Leafs. That's my answer.
Sure. But I don't think it'll happen in season. Now, Tortorella, obviously, he's got an excuse because they gutted that team and they gave him a contract extension. So I don't think he's getting fired this year, no matter how bad they are.
I agree.
Okay, 3 more names here. John Cooper, 12-1. Well, based on the fact that the Lightning have gotten off to another slow start and Steven Stamkos had to read his teammates the riot act. I'm not saying he's going to get fired right away, but if they underachieve and they lose early in the playoffs, I think this could be the last year for Cooper. And I know you said that a bunch of times, Russ.
Yeah, I think this is it for Cooper. I think Cooper has to have the kind of playoffs where it's like, okay, you know what? They lost round 3. They had some injuries. They lost in game 7. Fine, but there was good improvement. even if he just goes 2 rounds, I'm not sure he survives. Like I'm telling you, expectations are really high there, and it is going to depend on how they lose. It will. If they lose like last year, he's out. Like that's it. I mean, to me, it's not even a question. Will he get fired in season? No, he won't.
Okay, and the other 2 names, I find one hard to believe. Alain Vigneault at 16-1. I mean, come on.
Chance.
I mean, Jesus. Now, this one, I think the odds are better than 16-1. Jeff Blashill at 16-1. He's not an Yzerman coach. He inherited him. The team is going to suck. I mean, I know they won the first 2 games, but they're going to be terrible. They've buried all their young kids down in Grand Rapids so they could get more experience. Blashill could very easily be fired. I don't know if it means early on, but I think he could be fired during the year if they're really bad and they know that they're going to go in a different direction. So
I think if there was a step back with guys like Larkin and Philip Hronek and guys who he has there, hoping that will develop with the bad team, and then he's sheltering the other guys. If for some reason those guys started to look bad and take a step back, Blashill's gone.
Okay. I'll take a couple questions here before we end the show. Steve James asks, Mike, do you think Sandin will play the full year when Dermott comes back, or will he play in the World Juniors and go back to the Marlies? Well, I would have said it was going down the road of him playing the 9 games and then getting sent back to the Marlies until Monday when he played 15 minutes against St. Louis and played pretty well. Babcock seems to be, and I'm going to write about this in a little bit, he seems to be coming off the rotation that he's been using the first 4 games with the bottom pairing and with the 4th line. It looks like Spezza and Patan are going to play on Thursday against Tampa Bay, and that Justin Hall is going to play with Sandin. And those are the same guys who played against Montreal. So I don't know about Hall. I think Hall is just whoever is playing with Sandin is the placeholder until Dermott gets back. Sandin, if he keeps playing the way he is, I think he's staying. But they're going to make sure that he's ready before they really commit to that. Okay. Thomas says the Lightning have 3 potential coaches on their bench: Todd Richards, Derek Lalonde, and Jeff Halpern. I actually think if Cooper got fired, it would be Benoit Gruel, this Syracuse coach. He's a coaching prospect. Not to take anything away from those guys, but I think they want to head. Somebody head.
Todd Richards is. That's why they have him back as an assistant.
Right. I mean, Todd Richards has NHL coaching experience. Maybe as an interim situation, they would go to that, but I think it would be Gruel. So, okay. Not many questions in the chat. We'll be back. We may not be doing a show tomorrow. We'll keep everybody apprised of that. But we'll let you know during the day. But we'll definitely be back on Friday if we do not do a show tomorrow. So for Peter Tessier, for Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.